Let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by Samuel Polay, who writes, I know you're not the biggest fan of the Clone Wars, that's a bit of an understatement, but I really like the final 4 episodes of the last season. That being said, I found the first 8 episodes to be quite poor. So I'm a bit torn on the news that there will now be a new series on Disney Plus covering The Bad Batch, who debuted in the final season. I found The Bad Batch to be pretty dumb, but maybe they'll shine on their own. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yeah, for those of you who aren't aware what Bad Batch is, so there's this show called Clone Wars that had ran before, and then they did another season on Disney Plus to wrap things up. And the Bad Batch is a group of it's a clone troop that are kind of misfit clones, if you will. And they call them the Bad Batch. And they're a paramilitary group, and they were in the first couple of episodes of the final season. I actually thought they were quite bad. And the funny thing is, even a lot of people I know who are big Clone Wars fans, and I'm not a big fan of Clone Wars, but even a lot of friends of mine who are big fans of Clone Wars, they're like, yeah, before they got to the final 4 episodes. Even my friends who were fans of Clone Wars are like, yeah, so far, final season, not so good. So the news came out that they are doing now, that the news just dropped, they're going to do a whole new series on this group of clone troopers called Bad Batch. It's going to take place after the events of Clone Wars. So I believe they said it's going to take place immediately after the events of Clone Wars. So it's kind of a continuation there. Look, I'm a little bit the wrong guy to ask because I'm not a big Clone Wars fan in the first place. And I certainly didn't like Bad Batch as a part of that. But then again, a lot of people who are big Clone Wars fans weren't that big of fans of Bad Batch. I find it to be an odd choice. I understand their desire to continue on Clone Wars. Because even though I wasn't a big fan of Clone Wars, there are a bunch of people who are. And so I understand the desire to kind of continue, one way or the other, continue on Clone Wars. I just thought, I was very, very surprised to hear they were going to go in the direction of Bad Batch, considering their reception wasn't all that great. It's not like they were universally hated like Jar Jar was at first, but they weren't that warmly received at first. Anyway, Rob, I know you saw the final episode, the final season of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
What do you think about this decision for them to do Bad Batch? What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, to me, I too felt the last 4 episodes were great. The idea of the Bad Batch was going all the way back to the Dirty Dozen. It's sort of a bunch of misfit soldiers or people that are trying to be whipped into shape as soldiers. I think that storyline always works. Now, the one thing that makes me very interested in it is Clone Wars ended. It took us up to the movies. I mean, the Clone Wars series is done, but there's a question that lingers, which is what happened to all the clones between the end of Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope? Where did they all go? I mean, obviously by the time of A New Hope, people were being conscripted into the Imperial Navy. You'd go to the academy and join up and become a trooper, become a member of the Imperial whatever. So where did the clones go? And if they're going to tell that story and through the idea of the Bad Batch, I think it could be kind of cool. And we'll see. I mean, if it's a Dirty Dozen, it would be interesting to see if it's a Dirty Dozen-esque show where they're fighting for their survival in the midst of the Jedi being slaughtered and the rise of the Empire and what's happening. I mean, I think it could be a good show. It could be cool. But again, it all comes down to the execution. Good writing, good stories.
I just feel like what happened to the clones is something that could be referenced in a 2-minute flashback sequence of another show rather than its own series. But clearly there had to be, look, from my point of view where I was sitting and listening to fans, it didn't sound like they were all that warmly received. They weren't universally hated, but I mean, maybe there's enough people who thought this is really interesting. Maybe that was the plan all along. The whole reason they introduced them was so they could do a spin-off series with them later. So question is, guys, what do you guys think about this announcement to do Bad Batch? I'll be honest, I was surprised that they were doing it. Not surprised they want to continue on Clone Wars, but I'm surprised they were going that direction. Do you like the idea? Do you think maybe there are other characters from Clone Wars they could have continued on the story with? Or do you think Bad Batch is the perfect group to do it? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.